So everyone in the world wants to be wise. We all want to be wise, right? All of us, for the most part, we want to be smart, but I mean, I know like some of you guys maybe don't want to. Is anybody in here not want to be smart?
That was Calvin.
Okay, that's okay. You know, I know some people, that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to be one of those people who's known for being smart. That's okay. But a lot of us, we do, even if we feel like I'm not going to be smart, we do at least want to be wise. And so if we're going to be wise, there's some things that we got to know about life. So I looked up a quick article on how we can know what wisdom is, and I found some tips from Forbes. So you can recognize your limits, so you're not going to be able to do everything or know everything, so recognize that. Acknowledge other people's points of views. Understand you may not know it all. Be aware of different contexts. You may see an issue differently in the future. Distance yourself from it and trust your gut. So these are just some things that they would say on how you could be wise. That's maybe not horrible advice. I've heard a lot worse advice in the world. But tonight, I think James is going to give us some advice on what does it look like to be wise. And how do we know what wisdom is? And more than that, how do we take what we know in our head and live it out in our life? Because that's what it's about. So if you have your Bibles, we're on page 1012. We're in James chapter 3. And we're thinking about the wisdom from above. And so what we'll be doing tonight is first, he has a pretty short little point right there in verse 13 that we're going to look at. And then we're going to make a contrast because he talks about two kinds of wisdom. The first kind of wisdom is this wisdom that's from below. It's of the earth, it's wicked, it's evil, it's not good. But then there's a good wisdom that he talks about that's helpful, that's godly, that's wonderful for us to know. And we want to be dialed in so that way we are living in wisdom and not just living how we would naturally in and of ourselves. So we're going to be in James 3, picking up in verse 13. Let's start reading. James says this, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." So that's what we're looking at tonight. True wisdom. 3 simple thoughts for us on true wisdom. First off, true wisdom is found or revealed by conduct. Check out what he says there in verse number 13. "Who's wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct let him show you by his works in the meekness of wisdom." Sometimes we think that wisdom is just knowing the right thing. Like, wow, Evan, I know you. What's a topic you know a lot about? I'm guessing you know a lot about dirt bikes based on that shirt. Like, Evan probably knows a whole lot about dirt bikes. He has like a knowledge up here, but then you have to take from that knowledge and then be smart about it. Yeah?
I know nothing about dirt bikes.
You don't?
I could ride them, but it do want that, so I know a lot about cars.
Okay, so he knows a lot about cars, right? So if you need a fact about car, Evan is your guy, right? He'll tell you about the cars. But then, so you can know a lot, right? You can know a car can go really fast, but then you have to have wisdom. And wisdom is saying, I know this car, so like how fast, what's your favorite kind of car? Let's say like a Lamborghini.
2010 Honda Civic SI.
Okay, how fast can the car go?
Top speed 132 miles an hour.
Perfect, okay. Honda Civic SI, CSI, something.
SI.
Honda Civic SI, 2010, he said a top speed 132 miles per hour. That's knowledge. Wisdom is knowing, even though I have a Honda Civic 2010 SI, I'm not going to drive that 132 miles an hour because that's not very smart, right? So there's a difference between knowledge, what's in our head, and what we actually do in our life. It's about right living, so that's what it's all about. Now, we're going to kind of take a turn right here because this is going to be a sad story. So a few years ago, about 4 years ago, a really famous Christian apologist died. So that's not somebody who goes around apologizing, but he gives a defense. He tries to answer questions people have about God and the Bible in a way that makes sense. So he offers a defense, and he was really famous, really prominent. I had heard him speak. He had done great things over decades and decades and decades. And after he died, all sorts of allegations came out about it. And it turned out that they were true, how he had been abusive off the stage to women. And it was just horrible and disgusting to hear how someone who could know so much about God, know so much about the Bible, and then off the stage he lives in such a different way. See, that's what James is telling us. You can have a knowledge up here, but if it's not lived out through your life, you're not truly wise. So that guy, he knew what was right, but in his life, wow, he totally fell short. And it was just sad to see. And so James is telling us, wisdom is not just knowing a bunch of answers. It's not just having a lot of wise sayings that you can even go to. It's not just about being an old person. Wisdom comes when you can take what's in here from your head and then put it into your life and live out a good life. Now, he would say, it would demonstrate itself in meekness. And meekness, how many of you have heard that word meekness before? Does someone want to give me a definition of meekness? If you wanted to try and guess, how would you describe meekness? You want to go for it, Jonathan? Go for it.
It's like the seven predators, like more like pretty, like harmless, weak, had for.
That's one way you can think about it. That's probably not the way I would think about it, but yeah, sometimes, yeah, that's a good shot. That's a good shot. Yeah, what do you think?
Shy.
But be shy. Okay, so we can sometimes have that idea, like you're the prey, right? And you're going to get hunted down, or you're shy. Let me give you a different idea of what I think meekness is all about. You mind putting your phone away from me, Jacob? Thank you very much. Meekness is just this. It's power under control. It's just power under control. That's all it is. So I have this strength about me, but I'm not trying to demonstrate it. I'm not trying to live it out. I'm trying to control it. So he's going to say, hey, we're going to show that in humility. And so we see what's going on in the church. So if you skip ahead, so he's going to give us a little bit of a preview of what's going on later. So who's wise and understanding among you? Why is he asking this? Well, I think it's because, kind of like last week how we talked about, some people were raising themselves up to be teachers. Some people, I think, are coming up to be wise guys. Verse 1, what causes quarrels? Chapter 4, and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? So there's some kind of fight, some kind of conflict, some kind of issue that's going on in the church. And he's saying, hey, if you want to be wise, it's not actually going to end up in that. If you're truly wise, it's going to end up in a peaceful situation. So that's where we're going. So we're going to look at these two kinds of wisdoms. First off, the first kind of wisdom, give it to me, Jason, is we have to reject false wisdom. We got to reject false wisdom. He talks about it, verses 14 through 16. He says this, but if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambitions in your heart, do not boast and be false to the truth. If we have hearts that are jealous, that are selfish, then, well, we're probably following a false wisdom, a wisdom that is not of God, but it's of us. And so he's going to give us 3 reasons why we should not follow this. First off, this is a really good reason. What does it say?
Reject false wisdom.
That is true. That's what does it say? What's the reason? It's from Satan. Okay, so if something's from Satan, do you think that's something I should be for or against? Against, right? Look what he says in verse 15. This wisdom is not that comes down from above, not the wisdom that comes from above, but it's earthly, right? It's unspiritual. It's, what's the last one? Demonic. Holy moly. So if it's from Satan, maybe that's a good idea that we should do it. So it's not from heaven. It's not... it comes from earthly. It's not spiritual, it's unspiritual, and it's not angelic or godly because it's demonic. And if you look at what's going on, that's really what Satan likes to prey on. Remember in Genesis chapter 3, first off he asked Adam and Eve, did God really say, don't eat of the tree? And so he questioned that. Oh, what did Satan tell him what would happen if he did eat? You will.
Die.
Well, that's what God told him after. Oh, what did Satan tell him as a lie? Bam, right there. He tells them, hey, you'll be like God. You'll be knowing good and evil. And so what Satan is doing is he's pushing in, he's targeting in right here on the heart of this selfish ambition, of this jealousy, even inside of them, that they say, wow, I can be like God? And they're using their own wisdom. So like, hey, if I can be like God, then that's something I want to pursue and I want to do. And of course, that's the direction they go. And it had horrible consequences all throughout. Hi, baby. She's not from Satan, she's wonderful. That's what we're talking about, false wisdom. It's good to see her. Hey, so anyways, we got that idea coming. And so the big thing is, there are some ideas from Satan, some ideas from God. Some ideas are good, some ideas are bad. Let me think of it this way. Who's got a water bottle? Anybody got a water bottle here tonight? Okay, perfect. Evan has this water bottle. Let's say I take both these water bottles right here. Hold them up so we can see them. Beautiful. So what kind of beverage? You got water in here? Or Gatorade? Okay, so you got water. You used to have water. So let's say I give you either this Gatorade bottle or this white bottle. And this Gatorade bottle, I had just took it to the Dasani plant. You guys like Dasani?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think.
I know people get so silly about it. Okay, what's your favorite kind of water then? Sam's water? Walmart water? Who likes to have Fiji? Live water?
Great value.
Whatever that kind of water is, imagine that kind of water in your mind. Then let's say I take Evan's bottle right here, and I go and I dip it in beautiful Lake St. Louis. And I fill it all the way up to the top. And I'm giving you two options. You can have his water straight from the beautiful spring of Aquafina, live, whatever that stuff is. Or you can have Evan's wonderful, swampy, E. coli infested, parasitic Lake St. Louis water. Well, you don't got one of those. So imagine, right? You have two things of water. They're both water, right? They're both water. But what's different? Well, they're from two different sources, right? One is from a filtration plant where it's going to be nice and safe. One is from the lake. If you drink this one, nothing's going to happen. If you drink this one, what's going to happen? If you drink Evans? Yeah, you're going to get sick. He said you might die. I don't know if you'll die or not, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But that's the picture that we have to get, right? There are some ideas, there is some wisdom that's from Satan. And so that means all ideas and all lifestyles and all decisions can't be the same. Because some are from God and some aren't. And so we can't treat them like they're all equally good or equally valid or equally true. Because some ideas are from God, some ideas simply aren't. So we got to consider the source. Second reason that we should be against it, give it to us, it's selfish. It's selfish. He said it is all about selfish ambition. And selfishness and jealousy are the opposite of what we're trying to go for. This is what it said. Some people, they were trying to use their wisdom to actually bring people up. To try and, I'll just read what this commentator wrote. It said, some who pride themselves on their wisdom and understanding are displaying a jealous, bitter partisanship that is the antithesis of humility produced by true wisdom. I know you love a lot of those words right there. But basically what was happening is some people were saying that they are really, really smart. So I know that Evan is a Honda Civic guy. And you're a Chevy guy, aren't you? And Zach is a Chevy guy. And so could you imagine if these two just got into a major battle between Honda and Chevy? He's talking about the Civics, you're talking about the Silverados, or I don't know, is there a Chevy more than a Silverado? Corvette, okay. A Corvette's definitely cool. And so what would happen is, okay, so you imagine these two guys, and Zach is going around and he is telling everyone about how awesome the Corvette is. He's telling everyone how bad it is. Zach, all the facts that Evan knows, he can go back to.
I like Corvette.
Well, hey, I'm waiting. I like Corvettes too, but I'm trying to give you a picture of what's going on. You got two people who like two different things, and what they're doing is they're raising each other up. They're fighting. They're causing division. They're causing conflict. It's a really, really rough thing. And so what James is telling us, if our knowledge is leading us to live in a way where it's really selfish, because Zach's like, you know what, I want to show everyone that Hondas are not any good, I want to destroy Evan and all that kind of stuff. Right, he wouldn't do that, because both of these are good guys. We like both these guys. But what's happening is, that's happening in the church. People are raising themselves, getting teams, getting battles together, and it's just a really, really bad thing. It's a way of thinking of what's in it for me. What's in it for me? And unfortunately, that's something that is very, very common when we're very self-centered. When we can go to school, we can interact with just people we like. And we'll just kind of ignore the people who maybe we don't like as much. Some of you maybe have had a rich friend. And maybe the rich friend, you're actually not really that good of friends with them, but you just like that the rich friend's mom buys you stuff. I don't know if any of you have ever had something like that. Probably not. Well, that's okay. But, imagine that's something that's kind of selfish, right? I'm not there for the person. I'm there for what I can get out of it. It's disastrous when it comes to the church because people come with the idea of that I'm not going to come and serve, but I'm going to be served. So the church becomes all about me. And so it's about like the music I like and the games I like and the topics I like. And if it's not that, then we're not really getting anything out of it because it's all about me. But of course, Jesus would say, the Son of Man, he came not to be served, but to serve. And so we've got to have this new perspective where we're rejecting selfishness and pursuing God. So we have that. Here's the third thing that happens. It can be really, really bad when you're selfish because then you basically all become leeches. You all become parasites trying to suck the life out of each other. And look at how it ends, verse 16. There's disorder in every vile practice of what happens. That's what it leads to. There's just chaos and there's conflict and there's problems. And there's nothing good about it when we're living in this way that is just totally based on my way of thinking, following my wisdom, not following God, when we're living selfishly. And so it leads us to a really, really bad spot where we're not following God, but rather we're following ourselves. So James is saying we better reject that. It's from Satan, it's selfish, it leads to disorder, chaos, and conflict, and not peace and harmony and love. And so then James, he's going to tell us on the other side of that, we've got to embrace true wisdom. We've got to embrace true wisdom. So that's our next thing going on, verse 17. But he says, the wisdom from above, number one, reason you should embrace it, it's from God, right? It's from above. And look at how he describes it. It's pure. It's right. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not messed up. He says, it's peaceable. Instead of causing quarrels and conflicts, it's actually going to bring peace. It's gentle and open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. So wisdom, it's from above. Remember when we looked at the book of James, our very first week, said if you lack wisdom, let him ask God. Let him ask God, because God's the source of wisdom. Proverbs 2, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He's a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice, watching over the way of his saints. So one of the ways we can gain wisdom is just listening to God. That's why it's important to listen to God, to hear from his word. So I'm trying to read through the Bible again this year, and I just finished the book of Job. So there's actually 5 books that we would call the wisdom books. Job is one of them, and I just started today Proverbs. So there's 31 chapters there. And a couple other your wise or poetry books, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs. So those are all in that wisdom thing. And so if you're looking for wisdom, Proverbs is a really great book to look at because it has a lot of practical helps. And so if we want wisdom, we can go to God. We can go to God's word. That's important for us to know. So it's from God. Second thing, it's selfless. It's not going to be selfish. It's not about us, but rather it's selfless. It's looking at other people. It's not focused on me, but it's going to be peaceable. It's open reason. It's all those wonderful things where all of a sudden, it's not about me. It's about God. That I want peace with other people, and I want to show love and mercy and all those kinds of things in my life. Now, whenever it says that you'll have peace, it doesn't 100% guarantee that you're never going to have any kind of conflict in life. Because the reality is, there are people who aren't peaceful. That's around us. That's what's going on here. There are people who like to stir up drama and stir up stuff, and they'll start with their tongue, they'll start saying things, and they'll try to gossip and turn people against you and do all sorts of really bad and horrible things. So there are some really unhealthy people whenever you're following your own wisdom, not the Lord's. And so what he's not saying is, I can't guarantee that there's never going to be conflict in your life. But what he is saying is, if you are following God's wisdom, you can have an internal peace, even whenever everything else is going on around you that can be kind of quite crazy. Third thing is, it can lead to peace and righteousness. Leads to peace and righteousness. So he gives the example of someone sowing and then reaping. So if we're living out in God's way of wisdom, not putting ourselves first, not living for our ambitions, but following the Lord, then he says, look, there's actually good fruit from it. There's the harvest of righteousness sown in peace by those who make peace. We can reap the benefits of it. So we should want this wisdom. We should want God's wisdom because it's more important than anything that like Ben Shapiro could say, or Dave Ramsey could say, or Jordan Peterson, whoever you like to listen to. Because God's wisdom is pure, and it's right, and it's good, and it's peaceable. So if we want a life of peace, we have to pursue God's wisdom. And when you're a person following God's wisdom, that means you're going to be a peacemaker. You're going to be the person who's trying to pursue peace amidst the quarrel. And you're not going to try and make peace by just destroying your enemy. Not that, like, I'm going to flame them, I'm going to knock them down so bad that they're never going to get back. No, that's not the picture. It's that I'm going to do what it takes to reach to somebody who's maybe hurt me, reach to offer an olive branch, say, hey, look, we've had a really rough spot. Can we talk about this? Let's see if we can get together and have peace. That's what someone would do. Now, my brothers and I would fight sometimes. We would say, he did this, he did this, he did this. And your parent probably said what my dad said. I don't care who started it, but I'm going to finish it, right? That's kind of the picture that sometimes we've got to take on ourselves. That I don't really care what happened in the past. Yeah, we need to talk about it. We need to work through it. But we need to be focused on peace. We need to be using godly wisdom to reconcile our relationships rather than relying on our own thoughts, our own wisdom, following God. That's what we're going to do. So James is telling us, don't live in a way that just is out of your natural thoughts, out of your natural desires, because that way is really unstable. He said, look, if you live that way, if I live selfishly, I'm going to act selfishly, and it's going to lead to disorder, it's going to lead to chaos, it's going to lead to even worse things. And God would say, the only way to have peace is to be right with me. And so what we got to do is, rather than lifting ourselves up, we got to lay ourselves down and say, God, I'm coming to you in humility. That I need you in my life to change me and transform me. I need you to save me. So we call out on Jesus, and he can do that when we come to him in humility, saying that, Jesus, I know I can't make it to heaven on my own, but I'm believing in you, trusting in you, and that's my way to eternal life. And then we can have peace in life. We can have peace in life, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult. We can have this good fruit in and of our life. So we want to embrace wisdom. Embrace God's wisdom. Make it a priority to hear from God. Make it a priority to, instead of just adding to the drama and adding to the chaos, that you're trying to work toward resolution. That I'm not making a fire even bigger, but I'm a firefighter. And I'm going to do what I can to help extinguish that. And sometimes we got to just leave some of the results up to God. But I'm going to do what I can to make peace with others. I'm going to do what I can to live in wisdom the way that God would want us. Because we reject false wisdom. We trust in God. We embrace his way of living, laying ourselves down to follow him totally. Let's pray together. God, we do thank you for how you're so wise and how you share that wisdom with us that, wow, we definitely don't deserve your wisdom, but yet you give to us because you're a gracious and good God for us. We just ask that as we go through every week, no matter what kind of quarrels or drama or issues that are going on, I ask that you would give us a little bit, a dose of your grace so that we can help be peacemakers in the midst of really challenging and really hard situations and circumstances. Help us to recognize when we're stepping out of line and draw us back to you in all that we do. It's your name I pray. Amen.